Do you need a good night's sleep? Then find something else to watch because these true, scary paranormal horror stories are so scary they will keep you up tonight. My name is Sarah. I've always been intrigued and somewhat soothed by the idea of the paranormal, which explains why I often visited the cemetery to compose my thoughts. I don't know the logic, but being around the dead relaxed my mind. Whenever I spent some time there, I knew I was alone. It possessed the calmness I constantly desired after a long day. But lately, I felt like I'm not alone. At first, I tried to ignore it, but I've been unable to do so. Nevertheless, I decided to stop visiting for a while until this feeling went away. I almost forgot about it as I started walking in the parks to calm myself instead. A few days later, my friend Ashley proposed that we should play with the Ouija board. By this time, I had wholly forgotten the graveyard incident. So Ashley and I gathered at her house and went into her walk-in closet. We used our phone's flashlights as it was extremely dark there. We started playing around. Eventually, the spirit named Neve came on, and we started talking to it. Of course, we all thought one of us was making the board move, but the more we started conversing with Neve, the more it was obvious that none of us was making the navigator move. It was really creepy and eerie, but fascinating too. Then Ashley asked the spirit where it was in the present moment. It started to spell Graveye. Before it could finish spelling the word, Ashley hit the navigator off the board, started freaking out and screamed, "Graveyard!" He was spelling graveyard! I was scared, but in a fun way. Ashley freaked out and wanted to stop, but I insisted we keep talking to Neve as we at least had to say goodbye. We got the navigator back on the board and said we were sorry for interrupting him. He was not happy. He said to not do it again. Then for some stupid reason, I asked Neve what he wanted us to do. It started to spell VISIT. At this point, Ashley was terrified and ran out of the closet. The eerie feeling I felt in the graveyard returned, and it felt like it was itching at the back of my mind, and I could not shake it off. Maybe it was my skeptical nature again, but the feeling still lingered even after days. I told Ashley about it, and she said that perhaps we really need to visit the graveyard, so we did. As we entered, I felt prickling under my skin, making goosebumps. A sudden breeze whisked my hair into my face, and I trembled in response. I felt fear in every fiber of my being. It had never happened before. We sat in the corner of the cemetery. As soon as we set the board down, a strong wind made the board fly out of reach. I felt a burning sensation down my spine, as if someone was scaling my spine. We screamed and ran out of the graveyard and back to my house. I could still feel my back burning, and when Ashley checked, I had several marks down. 24 to be precise, the exact number of days I hadn't visited the graveyard. What was Neve? Not a human, not an animal, certainly not a ghost. Maybe a demonic entity. One thing is for sure, the first time I met Neve wasn't when I played with the board. My name is Joe. Recently, me and my wife Catherine and our daughter Casey moved into our new home. When I found this house, it was more of a relief for me than a thrill. An exquisite Victorian home with a big lawn and a white picket fence. Nearly as big in size as a manor, somewhat royal. It seemed ideal for my family, and I was slightly proud of myself for scoring such a catch. But there was an imminent feeling that had washed over me. Something was wrong. I couldn't shake it off. While my wife and daughter couldn't wait to move in, my skepticism wasn't letting me enjoy this moment, and my apprehensions turned out to be valid. As soon as we moved in, bizarre things started to happen. My daughter would wake up in the middle of the night screaming, and my wife heard peculiar noises coming from the attic. I tried to brush it off as my over-imagination. The series of weird events that followed made it hard for me to deny, and I had to accept that something was wrong. I was having evening tea with my wife in the first week of our moving in. I didn't realize it when it got dark while reading a book. I had no idea when my wife went inside. My trance broke when I heard a strange sound. It sounded like a combination of a howl and a cry. It was coming from inside the woods and seemed to be getting closer, and that's when I saw it. An animal. What exactly? I couldn't guess. It appeared to be a wolf or a big dog, with its tongue hanging out with saliva and blood dripping through it. A hellish sight. It was so graphic I couldn't brush it off as my imagination. A few days later, we were watching a movie and the lights surged. We heard the basement door slowly opening. I jumped up and wedged the door shut with a chair. Later that night, I walked past the basement door to find it open, no lights on, and heard my wife calling my name from down there. I thought it was strange, so I just went upstairs and found my wife in our room. I told her how I heard her voice calling my name from the basement. I still gave it the benefit of the doubt. But my last straw was when I was working late in my home office and heard a knock on the door. I opened it to find no one there. But when I looked out into the yard, I saw a ghostly figure standing at the edge of the woods. It was standing in the same place as that animal. Scared, I quickly shut the door, but the figure went nowhere. I went and got my family in the same room. We were terrified and couldn't even leave the house. Every time we tried to open the door, it would get stuck. We were trapped inside with the spirits. Desperate to get outside, we decided to go to the basement. It was gross and musty. It had an odd, eccentric presence when walking down there. In the nook of the basement, we found a box. That is how we got to know the complete story. The house's first owner had murdered his entire family to get away from his enemy's revenge and then committed suicide. The whole story was told in letters by the last owners. It contained pictures of the family and a way to get away. It was a ritual. We had found the solution. It was risky, but anything to free my family. The spirits were not happy about our intrusion. They were angry, and all these incidents were their way of seeking revenge. In a frantic attempt to get rid of the spirits, we decided to perform the ritual to let the souls of the deceased rest in peace. It went horribly wrong as they resisted, making it hard for us. I still don't know if it was successful, but we left the next day. After living at my brother's place for a while, we got an apartment complex in a crowded area downtown New York City. We were never truly the same afterward. The spirits might have physically left us, but they still haunt our memories and dreams to this day. My name is Catherine. I live in Maine along with my son Jeremy and my husband Dave and Scout, our dog. This is one of those memories that remain engraved in your mind as if it happened yesterday, even years ago. Jeremy had turned 2 a couple weeks ago, and I was home alone with him. Leaving Jeremy to play with his toys, I decided to finish a book and got engaged in it. After a while, I looked up, noticed Jeremy looking toward the ceiling, and returned my focus to the book. It wasn't such a big deal, kids always do that. When I looked again to check up, he was still staring at the same spot, somewhat scared now. It irked me now somewhat. This wasn't the usual, I'm intrigued by a random spot in the wall look on his face. Jeremy looked too frightened, terrified even. What could he possibly be looking at in that plain white corner? He started pointing towards the spot and started crying. His eyes seemed to follow something, but I could see nothing. Scout started growling aggressively toward the same place that Jeremy was fixated on. I ran towards Jeremy and picked him up, but his eyes were still fixated on that spot, and Scout wouldn't stop barking. It was impossible to shake off the feeling of unease creeping over me. It was too much to ignore now. I had to know what was compelling them to act like that. I concentrated on that particular spot and felt a cold chill run down my spine. It felt like my entire body froze. I was still unable to know what I was staring at, just the fact that there was something. Something which was not revealing its presence to me. Holding Jeremy tighter, I moved closer to the spot. With every step I took, the unease increased. As I came closer, I could see something dark, a figure. It was shadowy, almost blurry, like an unlocked character in a video game. It was slowly becoming more apparent, getting shadier. Just clear enough that I can make out the glowing red eyes surrounded by black fur. It wasn't an animal. Something closer to a humanoid staring directly into my soul. I could feel its malicious essence demonizing the aura. I knew I had to leave this place as soon as possible. I held a wailing Jeremy even more tighter, closer to myself. I tried to move to grab Scout, intending to run, but my feet felt like they were rooted to the ground. I was paralyzed with fear or something like a curse, unable to move as the figure descended from the ceiling. Its twisted, lengthy fingers reached out as if to grab me. Just as it was about to touch me, Scout started barking louder, moving toward the shadowy figure and trying to push it away. It made the inhuman entity retreat, almost vanishing. I took the opportunity to run out of the room, grabbed Scout and Jeremy, and called my husband Dave. The fear made me unable to speak clearly. All that left my mouth was, "Something's wrong, Dave. Something's wrong. You need to come home now, right now." The urgency in my voice made him rush home. When he finally got home, I told him everything that had happened through hiccups and tears. I could see at first that he didn't believe my words, but he had known me for years, and the fear in my eyes made it clear that it wasn't a joke or misapprehension. Also, Scout wasn't an aggressive dog, and his behavior further cemented the situation's truth. Dave reassured me and declared we could stay in a hotel for a few days. Deciding it to be the best solution, we booked a room for a few days in a nearby hotel and called a priest to come and bless the house. It was decades ago. Jeremy has long since grown up to be a handsome, successful man, but the memory of that terrifying experience still haunts me to this day. Sometimes I can still feel its cold gaze, the menacing red eyes still following me. There's one thing even more terrifying than these true scary stories, and it's what your life would be like without watching more of them.